So this is Career Lab Wednesday. I am your host, George Miller, and I'm here almost every Wednesday, although we've got a couple of Wednesdays coming up that are landing right on holidays. So I will not be here for a couple weeks. So as we're getting set up, as we are going into 2025, I wanted to talk some about some of the things that a lot of my clients have been working on, and to invite you into the space of looking towards what you want in the new year. And I'll share about that, but I also want to set the stage by saying that any question that you have that's career related, or maybe not even career related, you could go into relationship stuff because it's all kind of in the relationship realm anyway. But any question that you have, anything that's on your heart, could be something small about a bullet point on a resume, all the way to something big like, what am I doing with my career? Like, is this really satisfying me? How do I get more satisfied? How do I have more purpose in my moment to moment interactions or in general overall? Anything is on the table. So you can jump in here on Zoom and you can come off mute at any time and ask me a question. I love flying by the seat of my pants rolling live here. So let me know anything that's on your heart. And if you can't jump in here, you can always type your questions into the comment section, and I will do my best to answer your questions in the comments. So if you're typing your questions into the comment section, I'm going to want you to stay in touch with me. Keep me updated to see if I'm really on target with you, to see if I'm going in the right direction. So again, you're welcome just to listen. But as you're listening, if stuff comes up for you, questions that you have, know that you can type your questions into the comment section. And you can also jump in here on Zoom, and I can work with you either way. So we have got the holidays. I'm already in holiday mode, and that is something that I learned over the years of working with the right foundation, was that to front load things, was to get going on holiday times sooner than later, and to choose to get a lot of the benefits from the holidays earlier and earlier. And so to start taking in the affirmation that can come with the time, in the winter, it's cold. And people often can huddle together more. You might find that people will be a little kinder. And yeah, there's all kinds of examples of people being a pain in the butt. But I can also decide to orient more and more towards the warm fuzzies, so to speak. So that's one of the things why I'm getting into this now and getting into setting up the new year in advance. So how can you go into 2025 strong? So James, you got a question? I just see you coming on camera. Okay.
No, I'm trying to figure out my sound volumes over here. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm listening. I'm totally engaged. I'm listening.
Cool.
Right to the new year.
So, what are the things that you can do? What can you be doing now that's going to help you engage in 2025? What can you be doing right now that's going to set you up well? And so this week and next week, we're going to be talking about this. So it's looking at, what have you done this past year that you're really proud of? What do you want to celebrate? And then what are your goals? What kinds of things do you want to have happen in 2025? What's really important to you? So we want to break the goals down. And you know what? I'm going to say, I am not somebody who's motivated by goals. And I don't know, I'll throw a rough estimate out there. 70, 80% of the people I work with are not motivated by having a specific goal. Some people are, and that's great. They're good at setting themselves a goal and moving towards it. But what I find is more helpful for me and with most people I work with is, what do you want? What gets you excited? And that tapping into what you want then has you moving in the direction of where you want to be. And so for me, I am not somebody who's money motivated. The only reason I like money is it has me able to do more things. And so it's like, okay, great. How am I going to be able to have fun? What are the ways that that's going to happen more the better that I do in my business, the better that I do. So that then is actually motivating to me. So you start to look at what really matters to you. Is it time with friends? Is it doing exciting things? Is it creating things that are meaningful to you? And as you do that, you can look at, well, how much have I done of that this year? Where do I want to do more of that? Where do I want more in 2025? And start to let yourself vision into the next year from that place. Again, if goals work for you and you're like, I'm going to increase my income by whatever. I'm going to hit this bonus at work. If that works, then do it, But if you have found that you do not successfully hit your goals, then I invite you to go more inside and look at what's important to you and allow yourself to be with some of that discomfort of wanting. Like wanting, there is a discomfort in wanting. And so wanting more requires me to be more present with my fear and with anxiety and with some hurt. Because it's like, if I don't get what I want, I am going to be upset about it. So am I willing to pay the price of possible rejection, mistakes, failures, that kind of thing? Am I going to be willing to pay the price so that I can be moving towards what I want? And for me, the answer is yes. And I think for most people, that's the case. But I think it can be helpful to have a reframe around goals and what we want. So now I'm gonna break this down more. So in the next year, what are the things that you want to have happen? And now, how can you use a time? For me, the holidays are packed. Like, I'm meeting with clients, I'm running my business, and I'm also meeting more with friends. I've gone out more over the past few weeks than I usually do. My weekends are completely full. Like I have no time off until, let's see, probably Christmas Day. I'll probably have some time off then. And then I got family coming into town right after that. So it's like, so thinking about that, I could be like, oh, I hate the holidays. It's so stressful. Like I could do that.
Yeah.
But that's not going to launch me into the year the way that I want to. And so I'm going to actually look at the next few weeks up until, January 1st, January 2nd, that time. I'm going to be looking at it as okay, how am I going to use all of these interactions I'm about ready to have that's going to help me they're going to actually launch me into the new year with power. So I'm going to take advantage of this holiday cheer time. I'm going to use the fact that it's Christmas as an excuse to like reach out to more people, to be nicer to people, to have a little more fun. And I'm going to and if time with friends and family or travel time and that kind of thing is important to me and I want more of that in the next year, well, oh my gosh, I'm about ready to get a bunch of it. I've got clients who what's important to them this year is to completely disconnect and go recreate themselves in some other country. And they said, we're going to spend a little bit of time with family and friends, but nope. Other than that, we are going to recreate ourselves somewhere. Cool. And then it might be important to you to share some of that experience with people, to share that with your loved ones. So you want to allow yourself to get creative about how you're going to get your needs met now. Oh, I got a good one here, just to drive this point home. So I used to move furniture all throughout Chicago. I was helped run this moving business, and it was so cool because I got to be in the bowels of the buildings all over Chicago. So what it's like downtown, what it's like we'd always groan with the Rogers Park third floor walk up because it's really 3.5 flights and they're tight, they're narrow. So anyway. Yeah, James,
I was a mover.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Them stairways suck. Oh God, they're horrible. The worst. It's good money, but man, oh God, it's horrible.
And the good money part.
Evanston, you can't get onto the bridges.
Yeah. Totally. So we found over the years that there was always a influx of moves, the January breakups. So what happened is that people would put all of this pressure on themselves and they'd be like, all right, family time, holiday time. And then come January and the family time, holiday time is done. And they're like, you know what, partner, I can't stand you. And so we'd get all these calls coming in of people needing to move out of their place in the middle of winter because like nobody wants to move in January. Yeah. And so it's like, wait, why is this happening? Well, so to break this down, the point that I want to make is that people didn't know how to engage with their partner, with their friends and families. And it just, the holiday times would become a vice grip, would become this thing that they just did not, essentially showed a lot of cracks in the relationship to the point where the relationship broke. And so that can happen.
COVID.
Yeah, COVID. Yeah, another example. And so what I want you to do is to use the holidays as a crucible, if you're going to be with friends and family and you've got all these year-end goals, things that you need to get done, how are you going to do it in a way that's going to burn away the things that don't really serve you? How are you going to use this time to show you what really matters to you, to say, what do I really want in the next year? And, I want to have more meaningful contact with people. You might look at this as if you're going into the holiday times saying, all right, I'm just going to get absolutely loaded and I'm just going to, use it as an excuse to drink and eat as much as I possibly can, because then come January, I'm going to let it all go and I'm going to, turn over a new leaf.
Because that always works.
Yeah.
The former rather than the latter works.
Yeah. So there's no putting things off to the future. It's how are you doing it right now? How are you closing up your year in business, your year at work, your reviews, and how are you um, gleaning from all your experiences in the past year in a way? How are you harvesting everything that's happened in the past year that's going to help you identify more of where you want to go? So that's the overall context of ending the year strong, going into the new year with power. So I put that out to you. That's what I'm talking about today and next week. And I want to hear from people. How's this landing from you? What questions do you have? What questions about are you in the right career path? Are you at the right company? How can you use this time to really assess where you're at? It's times of transition where we can learn so much about ourselves. We look at the evolutionary development of humanity. It doesn't happen in a straight line. It's like, so we've got woo, yeah, talk about that time. I mean, we've got some huge changes going on in our world. My goodness. People say the end of globalization is happening now. So, oh, what does that mean? So we got all kinds of stirring things. So how can you use a transition? So I'd love invite any questions that you're having about this. James, what's on your heart as you're hearing this? What do you got going on?
Well, the last 3 years have been a transition, trying to figure out post divorce, I got three kids, and you know, it's I'm very grateful. I am a little lost, like what direction to go. Is it continue with entrepreneurship? Is it, go back into corporate America, get a nice structured benefit job? Like,
How are you doing in entrepreneurship?
it's kind of a cluster right now. I mean, I got a couple 1099s I'm doing some like roofing sales, but it's not fulfilling. I hate this work, and I'm just I'm in a lot of
What do you hate about it?
it's a lot of it's door knocking. And so I've been in sales like the last 2, 3 years. I haven't made that much, but I've learned a lot. I've learned the art of the close. I learned the art of the sale. I learned the art of pain points. And so my big vision is to take these years of knowledge that and life experience that can overcompensate for my lack of education. So when they say, "Hey, where did you go to school?" Like, listen, I know how to close people. Okay. I know how to work with, Armenians. I could close out any
So are
um
you are you interviewing?
I am. I am. I've sat down, I've talked to a number of different companies, you know.
So
Um
okay, so now you're in a
so
sales
I
job.
sold cars for 2 years in Rogers Park. I mean, that's the melting pot of the world. You're not getting anybody, you're getting people from all over the world that are go over there. So I could break a bridge, I could make anybody laugh, I could, put a piece of paper and, so I I want to transition to that and some of my higher ups that I know and say, hey, can I get a job with you? Translate that into sales to overcompensate the lack of education. So I mean, people have been pushing me for years to get into sales. God, I mean, I met Bob Brett
How
15 years ago. He's like, why aren't you selling? I'm like, I don't know, so now I do know, and like I need money behind that, you know. That makes sense.
yeah. Okay, so you're now having those conversations. How are those going?
You mean interview wise?
Yeah.
I mean, I've just started throwing my resume out there the last like probably couple weeks. I went for an interview at this one place. It was like, some whack 1099 job. But then I ran into a lady that was like a regional director of a POS systems. And we just started talking. I literally eating pizza, you know, before my interview. And then she's like, hey, here's my card. Call me up. I run you know, um, I'm the regional director of this POS system company. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I'm what I like to do is put myself out there to my direct contacts, but not necessarily on LinkedIn because I still am contracted with some people and I'm working and I'm helping others out. So, I'm kind of
But if you're contracted, I mean, don't they understand that part of your job is that you're bringing in new work?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So is there a reason you wouldn't put it on LinkedIn then? Well, here, so you're in the job, you now have a sales job, which is selling yourself.
Which I'm best at doing. Yeah.
So do you have companies in mind that you want to work with?
I want to work with someone that could set me up in-house or with the customer. I don't want to canvas. I don't want to knock doors. I'll respect the people that do that. I want to have something that's Monday through Friday. I can't work weekends because I got my three kids and then, that situation. And I need to make a lot of money doing it. And so I prefer to have something that's a little sexier than roofs or insurance. I don't want to necessarily go back and do like years of education. Like if I have to do a boot camp for a quarter year and learn the product, learn the material, learn the art of their clothes, learn their formula, perfect. Did it a million times. I do it. I can do that. Yeah.
So I suspect that the, you know, I wouldn't worry about the sexiness of it. Does that really matter to you?
It's got to be something that I could believe in.
Okay.
It's got to be something like I've been told by friends of mine that are really in the insurance business. Well, you could do this over the next 30 years and make a lot of money. I'm like, that's just selling an operating
So,
system to
okay.
a
So
restaurant
do
is
you have companies that you want to work for?
I got to find the industry first. I don't, I'm kind of I need to figure out what
So how are you going to figure out which industry?
I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I'm up here, I guess.
Okay. So this is basic sales, but it's harder to do when you're selling yourself. So when you're when you're selling cars and you know what the job is and it's clear and there's the environment for you, but the environment now is the world. The environment now is Chicago.
Okay.
And what you're selling is yourself. And as much as you hate the door knocking, that's essentially what you're doing now.
Yeah.
But you're the
No, no, no,
product.
no. So I'm working in a business that's heavily relying on door knocking, but I'm doing all referrals. So my
No, no,
volume
no.
is
I'm
a little
I'm
above my
saying that you you are now knocking on doors for you. You are picking up the phone.
okay.
You are looking at the companies. You're looking around Chicago or wherever, and you're saying, "Huh, I bet this place could use what I do. I bet this place could use my service." And why I say this is because I know that a lot of companies, especially the small and mid-sized companies, suck at hiring. They don't have good hiring processes. And so, I mean, big company, I mean, some of them might, but most of them don't. And
Yeah.
so if they need sales, if they need help in that area and they've got somebody working there that they're trying to train up and yada yada, if you can identify some places that are interesting to you, then you go talk to them and you say, "Look, this is my experience, but I want an environment where I have the level of security and some guidelines and boundaries where I can just go at it, where I can just get
Yeah.
all the low-hanging fruit." That's what I'm looking for, and have that conversation. You know, I have experience with this. I can see how it would translate over to this business. Are you and because then you become It's like when I was doing going door to door. I mean, it was just 100% a numbers game.
Yeah.
I was rejected 50 times a day at least. And so I learned, okay, just let the rejection happen and get to the next one. And when somebody wants the service that I have or there's something going on about it, then the relationship starts. And I remember going to this one place and she was just like she had already known that she was going to switch over to Comcast. I was with one of these companies where we sold AT&T to the people at Comcast and sold Comcast to the people at
Uh,
AT&T.
yeah.
And so you know, she was already pissed off at
Pick your poison,
AT&T.
pick your pill.
Yeah. And she had already decided. But it was just I just had to get through that. So there's a if you get to
That's
the
what I have. Like, not a lot of people can sit down with people from India, Nigeria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Kurdistan. Like, I have that experience that I could, there's people that are uncomfortable in certain groups of people. I'm not, because I don't fit in that box. I mean, just
cool.
look at me how I talk. Like,
Dude, so that is a needed thing in Chicago. So what are the other industries? What are the other companies that need what you do? That's a niche thing.
yeah, I mean,
So
yeah,
now you have to identify this. This is what I mean by you are selling yourself. You're the product, so to speak. So you got to find your leads. You got to look at a map, look at the businesses, and say, and then look at your contacts, look at people who you know, and
that's what
say,
I was
hey,
thinking.
this is what I'm interested in doing. Who do you know? Keep me in mind. So I'm going to say this to everybody who's listening in. This is a key thing that you do when you're in the job hunt is you come up with a list of people that you're going to reach out to and follow up with. And when somebody reaches out to me and says, George, I'm looking for a job opportunity. Here's my experience. This is what I'm looking for. What I tell them is, great, thank you so much for telling me that. And please follow up with me in a week or two and remind me. Now, most people aren't going to be that straightforward with you.
Yeah.
So what you have to do then, James, is you've got to say, here's what I'm looking for, and I'm going to follow up with you in a couple weeks because I know it takes my brain some time to process stuff. So just keep me in mind. This is what I want, and I'm going to circle back with you in a couple weeks. Is that good? Sound good? And they're like, yeah. Oh, cool, cool. So James, you're just taking the pressure off of everybody as much as you can. People like to help people. There's a lot of people who want to help you. Yet we're busy or distracted, that. So your job now is just to help me and help the other people you're talking to, but help me help you.
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, maybe I go to the centers of influence. The George Millers, the Burrows, the Armin Tadavosians, the Bob Wrights, the maybe that's a little too big, but like, go to people that know these people that are in these positions. Do you think that
Yeah,
would be
that's one thing to do.
okay?
Yes. Yes. See,
Because I was thinking,
I had one thought about you, but I don't think you're going to want to do it. But I was like, oh, that, I don't know. I'll at least, I'll send you this idea.
what is it? I mean, or if it's private.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it here,
Oh,
but,
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
so that's the kind of thing you want to do. You want to just be having conversations with people, and it's the freaking holidays. So
Yeah,
like,
heaven, yeah.
get out.
Well, and plus I got my BNI group that I do my roofing in. So, like, that's a massive. I just go down the list and there's 10,000 contractors or whatever, you know.
Yeah. So who are the contractors that need help with sales. Any company that's at the spot where they've got something of a system that's working, most of them want somebody to go to help with sales. Most, that's the thing. It's like, whoa, okay, we're getting these clients. I don't have enough time personally to have all the conversations I need to have. So who can I pay to have more of these conversations? Who can I pay that's going to get me a meeting where I could finalize something? Like, just there's a lot here, James. So you just need to be talking to people and telling them about what you do. And I hope so. Here's the thing that I want to say to everybody who's listening in. We overthink. We just all overthink. I'm not good at overthinking. When I look at the personality assessment stuff, I am not an analyzer. And I still act like it. I still try to, like, dear Lord, I thank goodness I called my accountant today and was like, dude, I don't know what to do with this. He was like, yeah, you're not supposed, that's why you have me. And I was like, okay, good. So, like, but I already wasted several days, like, agonizing over some of these next steps I know I need to take. So I could have just called him sooner. I'm paying the guy and I still didn't call him. So, like, we're just, most of us are not that good at reaching out. And so, James, I think as you understand what your job is, that you have a job of selling yourself, I think as you get that, you're going to be a lot better at just doing the activity you know you need to do. Just doing it, just being engaged. And that's I find that true. I'm gonna take a leap here. So I love following, like, geopolitical stuff. And this guy, George Friedman, he says that we are at the end of the microchip era.
Mm.
And so the stuff in our cell phones, this technology existed back in the 70s with the military. And that works its way into the population, and into business. And then we come up with these new technologies that change the world, and all kinds of new things happen, yada, yada, yada. And now what he predicts is that we're at a point now where we're at the end of the microchip era. We have kind of maxed out what this technology can do. And we're now putting all of our hopes in artificial intelligence. And it's like, whoa, okay, this is the next big thing. He didn't really think so. He thinks we're kind of like, we've been denying reality, and we've got kind of lost up in our heads, like coming up with one more program is really going to solve the issues of the world. It's like, that's not going to happen. Like, it takes, now we have gotten to a point of complexity where, like, we can just get so lost in our heads. And so what he says is, at the end of the day, human beings need contact with each other. At the end of the day,
Never.
like, I don't want to just sit on my computer and, like, do a bunch of work. You know what I do now? I don't do my banking on the computer. I go to the bank. I go talk to a human being. It's awesome.
George, and that's the reason why I didn't jump in the new this is beyond the subject, but jump in the new right thing, or not the new right, but the thing you guys are doing.
Got it. Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's like
So,
on Zoom, I'm like, I can't do Zoom. I can't stare at this computer no more. 1 hour,
yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, so now, yes, so now I am regimenting my time and saying, well, where's my screen time worth it? One-to-one coaching sessions, group coaching sessions, they often seem to do a lot of good, and people don't have to travel an hour to see me. However, I do offer in-person stuff, and I like it. So we just did a training last weekend that was in person. It was amazing.
Oh,
So so yeah, I'll tell you more about that later, James. But anyway, so for everybody listening in, we we get all up into our head and we're not effective. So I'm going to tie this right into emotional intelligence, which is
oh,
what I love, which is getting in our bodies, being aware of our feelings, understanding that I feel scared to go to a networking event in person. I feel afraid to make contact with human beings. I am afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody. I get anxiety every frickin' time. I feel afraid to call a friend. I feel afraid to call a family member. I'm afraid all the time. I have anxiety. And as I lean into that anxiety, as I'm with the fear, as I befriend my fear and say, okay, what are you trying to tell me? Oh yeah, I do need to make contact. Okay. Yeah, here's what I'm afraid to say to this person. Yeah, I'm afraid to ask for help. I'm afraid to tell somebody to think of me when they're, in what job I'm looking for. I'm afraid of this stuff. Okay, I'm afraid that somebody might actually care about me because that's uncomfortable because that doesn't fit within the way that as I do this and I let myself be with the fear and the anxiety, then I actually make progress. Filling out one more form, doing one more online thing. There's ways that there's the necessity in that. Like, dear God, I'm with this tax stuff. I'm uploading my ID yet again. I'm entering my my FEIN yet again. Anyway, so there's that stuff that's going to have to exist, but I think it's helpful to look at. I need to take meaningful risks in order to move myself forward. So, James, you need to take meaningful risks of contacting people who can make connections for you and that kind of thing. And you need to take meaningful risks and go to in-person things where you can talk with people and they can say, oh, you know what? Actually, now that you're talking about that, James, I think I've got somebody you should talk to. You need to make that happen because nobody else is going to make it happen for you.
yeah.
So I'm seeing this. Yes, thank you. Thank you online thank you for affirming me and saying this is good stuff and then saying, "Oh, I got a question here." During my interview, I have a hard time relating and referencing back to my position and how it relates to positions I have applied to. I have a hard time remembering or just feeling prepared in general. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. James, I'm going to jump over to this, but I bet you can apply this too to where you're at. Okay? Now, what happens for most people when you're in a job search, when you're interviewing, is you feel afraid and you try to perform. You're trying to, oh, yeah, yeah, okay, thank you, Jerry. I'll get to that in a moment. You try to sell yourself to somebody else. And that is a highly complex process. And so I suspect what's going on for you who said for M, I'll just call you M in case you want to stay anonymous. M, I suspect what's going on is that you are trying to convince them that you are a good fit, and that doesn't work. Especially if you're not like a little sociopathic and able to be super charming. If you can't do that, if you can't kind of fake it, it really doesn't work. So what you need to do is you need to change your mindset. And I got an online course for this that helps with this. So we'll throw that in there, the career course. But you need to change your mindset from one of trying to convince and trying to sell yourself and trying to look impressive to one of interviewing them, asking them questions, asking them about the position. And even if you're not asking in moment to moment, like if you're in a first round interview and it's not your place to be asking questions, you need to develop this skill. We call it internal locus of control, because that's what confidence is. That's what is going to be more trustworthy, and you're going to be able to remember things better. So have a hard time relating, referencing back to your position and seeing how it relates to positions you're applying for. Have a hard time just remembering or feeling prepared in general. So you're going to want to practice picturing yourself in that new company that you're interviewing at. You're going to want to like imagine like what are the things you won't like about it? What's the where are the challenges that leadership is having in that organization? You know, where are the breakdowns happening? Why are they hiring you? You know, what isn't working that they need help with? And that then has you able to ground the need that they have in what you can offer. So now you're seeing yourself as a value add. You are valuable. They have a need, you're valuable. And is their need and your value, does it align? Is there a fit there? And you want to get to that understanding as quickly as possible because you don't want to waste your time. You got more doors to go knock on. That was the thing. I mean, when knocking on doors, like if I got to somebody, it was just obvious that like nothing was going on there, that there was not a need. And then it was like, great, because there's 100 more. Thanks for that's fantastic for letting me know. So you want to get to that spot. I had a client who in the first 5 minutes in the interview, he said, "Oh, you know what? This is a little awkward. I just realized from something you said that I don't think that we're going to be a good fit. And here's why I don't think that this is going to be a good fit for me to work here." And the woman said, "Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. You know, that I that you're not wasting my time." And then she's like, I got another 15 minutes here. They had a very meaningful 15-minute conversation, and my client was able to refer somebody to her to help with what she needed. And then that actually turned into a little bit of work for him in the future. So he's become a consultant anyway. So there's you want to see yourself as valuable. And so James, for you, let's do this. So like when you're going into a company where you see a need for them to grow their sales, and you say, okay, here's what I bring. I thought of you. Somebody recommended I talk to you because it looks like you're wanting to grow sales in this. So my background is this, and this. Is that something that you think would be a good fit here? Are you looking to grow that?
Well,
So,
and so
yeah, go
when
ahead.
you're talking to the other person, I always try to represent, I always try to like talk and joke around the interview because I want them to understand like they're going to be spending 40 hours a week with me. And how am
No,
I going to
James,
get
I don't
help?
want you to go to coaching right now. I don't want you to
Oh,
coach the person. I
okay.
want you to apply what we're talking about to yourself and your challenge.
Okay.
How are you going to have more of an internal locus of control? How are you going to let's pretend that you get an interview next week with a company that is doing some other kind of roofing or windows or something where you're like, "Oh, I could help them grow their business." How would you go in and um, reference back to previous positions you've had and how it relates to that company?
Yeah, absolutely. I did it yesterday with a water filtration company, and I was telling them how uh I communicate with people that don't necessarily speak languages, and are speak English, and so like yeah, obviously Google Translate, but I'm using my eyes, I'm using my lips, I'm using like funny faces. I'm
No,
trying
no,
to
you're going too much in your head, man.
I don't
Here, are
understand.
you open to some coaching?
Yeah, please.
So I'm um so and so connected us. I'm pleased to speak with you. It looks like you're trying to grow your company you're trying to grow sales in this area, and they thought that I might be a good fit here. Are you trying to grow this part of your company? And then you wait for the answer.
Okay.
And they say something like, yeah, or yeah, no, actually it's more like this. And you say, okay, are you finding that you're interacting with people from a lot of different backgrounds and that you might not be establishing trust quickly with them? And they're like, you know what? Actually, now that you say it, yeah, it's like I know that I could get a lot more clients, but we could have a lot more customers, but there's something about the dynamic that is a challenge. Okay. Well, that's interesting to me because I've had a lot of practice with that. Oh, and then they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" Well, I've worked in Rogers Park at this
I would say
place.
work in Buffalo Grove. Try selling in Buffalo Grove. That's tough. You know,
Okay,
I
there you
there's people
go.
all day over there, all day.
So so
You know,
so right there, so notice the difference now, James, because you are seeing yourself as valuable. You don't have to go in and tell them about Google Translate and how that doesn't work as well. They didn't ask. That you don't have to explain it. You're now asking them questions to help yourself understand what their needs are. And then at key moments, you'll say, yeah, I've had a lot of experience with that. And then they're like, oh, okay. Well, we're looking at, like there are some of our potential customers could be this, and this type of person. So it sounds like you're saying that you can have interactions that would move things forward with them. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'm very
Well,
comfortable with them. Yeah.
tell me more about your needs. Yeah. And then you could say like, yeah, look at me. I'm a mutt from all over the place. So, and, and that's how you want to go about it is you want to be understanding that you're valuable and seeing if your value fits in with what they need. And if not, if they're like, oh, you know what, that's interesting, but no, actually, we don't need help with that kind of sales. And you're like, oh, great. You know, I really appreciate you taking the time talking to me and keep me in mind. Will you keep me in mind if you think of any other businesses, anybody else that might need something like this? And they'll say, yeah, I'll do that. And I'll be like, would it be cool if I followed up with you in a couple weeks? Just to remind you, I know how busy things are. Okay, yeah. Because owners know other business owners. So, you just did them a service. And if they've got a friend that needs your services, then they get the social credit of introducing you. So for M online, I'm hoping that's helpful. We went in many places, but basically the problem if I'm losing track of myself in an interview and in a conversation and I don't understand how I'm valuable, then I need to do some work on that. I need to understand the value that I bring. As a coach, I understand that I help people deepen their relationships. I understand that I help people make contact with their feelings in a way that then facilitates their teams to be more effective. I know that I help people be with their anxiety in ways that's more useful instead of avoiding their anxiety and running into all kinds of problems. So, I can say that, and I can say that to one person, or I can say it to a leadership team, or I can say it to an entire organization. I can say, okay, well, it sounds like what I'm going to be doing is helping you identify um, fear points, points of conflict in your organization. And we're gonna look at that together, and we're gonna assess how what you're anxious about, like what's accurate about it, what's not accurate about it. So I hope that's helpful, Em. You want to get better at understanding what the value is that you're bringing. So if you can type in and let me know what jobs you're applying for, what are the things that you're doing, and there's so many times like past experience, like I didn't understand how good I was at kind of reading people until I was a coach. And I remembered that, oh yeah, when I was back in that moving company, I was often the one setting up the jobs. And the reason I was the one setting up the jobs is because I could pick up from the way somebody sounded on the phone who was going to be the good crew to send. 'Cause I wouldn't want to send certain crews because I just had a sense of, oh, yeah, that's not going to go well with that person. And other people didn't have that. Other people were just like, oh yeah, whatever. Oh yeah, whatever. And so it's like, oh, I have sensitivities and that's a gift. And so you might not be aware of what your gifts are. You might not, a lot of times I find this so much with well, I don't know. I guess I'll say I find this a lot with people who tend to be more sensitive and empathetic. They don't understand that that's a gift.
Mhm.
They tend to, I'll say they, I'm talking about myself here. I tend to think that there's something wrong with me when my feelings are hurt in an interaction. I tend to blame myself, and most people are really critical on themselves. And so there's a way for you to get to know yourself more and understand your gifts and understand that your sensitivities are a key for you to make deeper contact with people, that you don't need to avoid the anxiety and the little conflictual moments that happen, that you want to stay with that conflict in a way that helps you resolve things. Okay, I'm talking about that, and holy moly, we're up at the end. And Jerry, thank you for saying that about the cold plunge in person. Yes, come get in the lake with me. I love it. I do that. I'm doing it all winter long. So check it out. There's no cost to it. If you donate to me, I'll take it because I've got neoprene gloves and booties for you, and we've got a setup where you can go into the ice water and then come warm up in our place here. And so I'm doing that Saturdays and Sundays in the morning. And James, you said you want to do some in-person stuff, so come on. Come
So
on.
I think about you a lot because ever since you've been doing that, what I do is I get in my car on the highway. I'm doing like 90. I put all the windows down. I got a Highlander and I'm freezing ass. And I'm so
Yeah.
freaking pumped with my clothes on. I love it, man.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
that's
just,
good. Dude, that's awesome.
I've been doing it for like a year and a half. I love it.
Chicago wins. You don't even have to just go into the lake. You could just drive down 9094 with the windows down.
I'm
Get
telling you.
that aliveness. Oh, dude, that's awesome. Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's a great idea.
You're still just as cold. You're just not wet, and I don't have to come all the way to the beach.
That's true. And if you live in, most buildings in Chicago, the high rises don't work so well. But most of these 3 or 4 flats, the water in the shower right now is so cold. I mean, that water you got enough there for a nice cold plunge. So, Okay, well, everybody, we're coming up on the end here. James, really good to see you, man.
Absolutely,
Um,
likewise. Let's make
I'll
it a habit.
I'll connect you with somebody, but yeah, come out and play. Come out and play. Um, and for everybody listening in, we're going to be doing this again next Wednesday. We're talking about how are you using the end of the year? How are you using holiday time to really make deeper contact with yourself and the people that you care about so that you're launching yourself powerfully into 2025. All right, everybody. Blessings. I will see you next week.